And now is the time for the technical session number 6. And the chairperson for the technical session number 6 is Dr. Rishikesh Kumar Singh, President and Director, EFSLC, New Delhi. Welcome, sir. Welcome. Dr. Rishikesh Kumar Singh is a poet, an eco-critic, a researcher, a traveler, and an ecological facilitator. He is the founder and the president cum director of the EFSLE, and also the CEO and MD of Elencos Academy. He has been awarded by many organizations for his phenomenal works, and he has been the resource person for various events, and he always motivates people for doing better things. So over to you, sir, and welcome here. Welcome. Welcome, sir. Over to you, sir. Unmute yourself, sir, please. Yeah, your voice is not audible. Sir, unmute yourself, please.
Yeah, hi.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, hello. Yeah. Thank you, Ravinderji. Thank you. And I'm also thankful to Dr. Shubhra, who invited me for this, chairing the session. Here, actually, I was really interested seeing the topic of the conference, just not just for the sake of, chairing the session, because I just wanted to listen some of the, like paper presenters, some of the views, because the topic itself, it's quite relevant, especially the, the word, these three words are really, it seems like they are simple, teaching, learning, and education, but they are complex in many ways. And in this pandemic time, really, it's the need of the hour to discuss on these topics. Because in the last session I joined, and I have heard, some of the paper presenters, especially I think Anuradha ji, she, presented what she has actually felt while teaching online. So, these personal experiences are really important to share on such platforms, because, I am also I teach online, and I have seen that, yes, online method is good for adults and the people who are in higher education, but it's really a tough challenge for the, kids. And we really need to think about them also, because last month I was in my hometown, and there I saw all the small kids who were people are trying to provide the facilities, people are trying to provide the online platforms for those kids, but unfortunately they were not at all interested in such kind of arrangements, just because it is not made in that way, the level of interest, what a child specifically thinks about. See, the adults can be, adjusted in any ways, I always feel, because they have the experience, they are empirical in so many ways. And also I felt that while discussing all these things, we need to discuss about some of the important policies of government as well, because by providing the internet services, this is not in our hands. This is not in our hands, in fact. So, I have seen that there are 2-3 things very important, like the facilitation of a spectrum while providing any internet service, or the cable, arrangement in different, remote areas of our country, which is really not seen at all. At my home place, it's completely I could not use my internet connection very well there. So there are so many issues, and on this platform, I feel that teaching, education, the system, education takes the word teaching, but learning is a completely independent kind of scenario. So we need to anybody can learn, but anybody cannot be educated without a system. So we need to segregate these two things separately. Like we are talking about, when we are talking about education, we need to talk about the system. When we are talking about learning, we need to talk about the way we adopt to train someone or to provide some facilities to those who are interested to learn something. So in this session, as I have to chair this session, I have gone through the 4 presenters, the name here, and I think all are present here. Dr. Vishal A. Patel, he is a language trainer, and I was so happy to see this, that he is a language trainer, because I'm also a polyglot, and I know what are the challenges a person comes through while learning a language. So he's a language trainer from Gujarat, and there is another one, Mrs. Rajput Shraddha Bhau Singh, sorry. She is assistant professor in Hidayatullah National Law University, Chhattisgarh, Raipur, Chhattisgarh. The third participant is Ms. Shruti Chopra. She is the research scholar, Department of Teacher Training and Non-Formal Education, Faculty of Education, Jamia Millia Islamia from New Delhi. And the last participant is Nimta Devi. She is a PhD research scholar from PG Department of Education, University of Jammu. So I think we should begin the session with the presenters. And I just, invite Dr. Vishal, and the topic of his paper is Educational Games as a Learning Method with Reference to English as a Second Language. So I think it's going to be a very good presentation, because educational games are really interesting. And let's see what the new thing he puts in his presentation, because there are so many ways, like through cards, through videos. We have so many ways, traditionally we have. It's not new, but let us see what new he can present through his paper. So I invite Dr. Vishal. Dr. Vishal, are you there? I can't see him, I think so. He's there? Ravinderji, could you confirm he has joined or not, Dr. Vishal?
Sir, I cannot see him on the board.
Yeah, I think so. Okay, so let's move to the second presenter. She is Shraddha, Mrs. Rajput Shraddha Bhau Singh. So I think she's there. Yeah, Shraddha ji, you are welcome to present your paper. Hello. Please unmute yourself. I can see you are not muted. So, hello. Yeah, Shraddha ji. Hello. Hello, Shraddha ji. We welcome you. Please unmute yourself and present the paper. She has left. See, these are the technical glitches we are facing through. In the last session also we missed a paper. Maybe it was a beautiful paper, but here also we are not finding 2 of them. Shraddha has just left, and I don't know, Shruti is there or not, Miss Shruti Chopra? I think we should move on.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, I'm here.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. I welcome you, Shruti ji. Please, hello.
Yes, sir, I can hear you.
Yeah, please present the paper. Yeah, please present the paper. The title of the paper is, please unmute yourself right now. Hello.
Sir, I've done that. Yes, I'm going to share my screen. So, in the meanwhile, sir, I want to. Yeah, am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible. Just let me finish, and until then, you unmute yourself. Hello. Yeah. So the topic of Shruti's paper is strengthening physics teachers' pedagogical content knowledge through exploration with agent-based modeling. I think this is completely different kind of topic. It's not yet presented such kind of topic in this platform within 2 days. So let's go through your paper, Shruti ji. You can present now.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I will take a minute and share my screen. So please give me a minute to share the screen. Thank you. I hope you're able to see my screen.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Thank you so much. So a very good afternoon to all the participants and the organizers, and I thank Sir for introducing me. So I am going to present my paper on strengthening physics teachers' pedagogical content knowledge through explorations with agent-based modeling. Um, I'll begin with the introduction to my paper. As we all know that the advances in developmental psychology and the cognitive science research have revolutionized the ways educators think about teaching and learning of science. In fact, the emphasis on knowing students' conceptions has led to extensive research on conceptual change approaches. And as envisaged in National Curriculum Framework 2005, the teaching learning approach in science needs to go beyond the traditional textbook-centric approach, and it needs to help children to explore and express their experiences, which contribute to their development of conceptual understanding as well as attitudes by realistically relating the ideas to their daily lives. It has come to be widely admitted by educationists as well as teachers that educators need to possess a specialized knowledge for science teaching, which is distinct from their content knowledge. And this specialized knowledge of teaching is called pedagogical content knowledge. It was termed PCK, which I'll be referring to as PCK, by Schulman in 1986, which results from an amalgamation of content as well as pedagogical knowledge. And the teacher uses this knowledge to transform the subject matter into pedagogically powerful forms in order to facilitate students' learning. Within this framework, the knowledge and beliefs about learners' conceptions, learners' ideas, has been regarded as an important component of teacher knowledge. And this specialized knowledge for teaching guides teachers in making decisions about teaching and learning, and it basically puts emphasis on examining the craft knowledge of teaching and promoting reflection on action. Moreover, strengthening teachers' pedagogic content knowledge requires both pre-service and in-service teacher education programs to become more responsive towards preparing teachers, for preparing teachers that allow children to express themselves in the classrooms, and they are able to design learning environment based on learners' ideas, learners' existing ideas. So although several research studies have indicated the need of strengthening teachers' pedagogic content knowledge, we still find that the literature on strategies and tools for enhancing teachers' topic-specific pedagogical knowledge is inadequate. So the focus has been on general pedagogic content knowledge and not on strengthening teachers' topic-specific pedagogic content knowledge. So therefore, in this paper, I would explore the use of agent-based modeling environment. I'll be using NetLogo. NetLogo is, as I mentioned, an agent-based modeling environment for enhancing teachers' content and pedagogical understanding for teaching of the microscopic world. So in class 11th physics, in the CBSE curriculum, we have the understanding of microscopic phenomena under the chapter Kinetic Theory of Gases. And we all know that the constraints involved in the microscopic interactions in a traditional physics laboratory make it very challenging for both teachers as well as learners to visualize these phenomena. So therefore, there's a need for evolving innovative pedagogical strategies for demonstrating these phenomena in the classroom. So with this as the larger aim, the research questions of my study, as I mentioned that this study aimed to explore and develop teachers' pedagogical content knowledge, physics teachers' pedagogical content knowledge in the domain of kinetic theory of gases, to understand the complex ways in which teachers think about how a particular science content can be addressed in the context of a classroom. So particularly two components of pedagogical content knowledge have been highlighted in this study, which is the knowledge of content that teachers have and their knowledge of students' topic-specific conceptions. These two aspects have been explored in the study. Thus, the research questions that guided the present study were: what is teachers' pedagogical content knowledge regarding kinetic theory of gases? As I mentioned, within pedagogical content knowledge, I'll be focusing on two components: the teacher's knowledge of content and their knowledge of students' topic-specific conceptions. And the second research question was, how can agent-based modeling help in enhancing teachers' pedagogic content knowledge? Now, my research context and data collection, this was a qualitative study, which was part of a larger study on exploring teachers' understanding of students' conceptions in physics. The participants of the study included 30 physics educators teaching senior secondary classes in government as well as private schools in Delhi, while 10 teachers were from government school with a teaching experience of about 5 to 20 years. The remaining 20 teachers were in private schools with a teaching experience of 8 to 25 years. So all the teachers had a master's degree in physics and a bachelor's degree in education. The data collection of this qualitative study was done in two phases. In the first phase, an interview was conducted with teachers to assess their pedagogical content knowledge. This involved exploring their content knowledge about kinetic theory of gases and their knowledge of students' learning difficulties, alternative conceptions related to this particular topic. So the duration of each interview was 1 to 1.5 hours. And this was followed by the second phase of the study, which involved introducing teachers to the modeling of emergent phenomena using NetLogo in a 3-day workshop. This workshop was conducted online. And to assess the change in the pedagogical content knowledge, this intervention was followed by an interview of each participant. Coming to the design of the workshop, the sessions focused on illustrating students' learning difficulties related to, as I mentioned, about kinetic theory of gases and understanding their alternative conceptions. Now, an understanding of students' learning difficulties and alternative conceptions was done through a questionnaire that was given to students, 170 students of various schools in Delhi. And based on the responses of students, the workshop focused on addressing students' difficulties, what are the ways in which students' difficulties can be addressed in the classroom, and whether teachers are familiar of students' learning difficulties and alternative conceptions or not. So the workshop involved hands-on sessions that explored how NetLogo simulations could be a powerful tool in addressing students' alternative conceptions through visualization of the dynamic behavior of particles. And each session comprised tasks that allowed teachers to engage in inquiry and predict the relationship between the variables that affect the gas behavior. So in this particular paper, I have elaborated the engagement with 3 NetLogo models, which were constructed. Some of these were constructed by me, or they were adapted, aiming at explication of the following 3 cases that I mentioned here. Understand the behavior of molecules when heat is added to a gas, which is contained in a cylinder. Predict the behavior of molecules when gas expands into empty space, and examine the behavior of molecules during free expansion. So these were the major findings that I have indicated here. This was a qualitative study, so the teachers' responses were also recorded, and some of these I'll be mentioning while highlighting the findings. So during the pre-workshop interview, the teachers were presented with a situation which is presented in this box here. and in which they were asked to predict students' response. So what would be the students' response according to them to this particular question? Where one is expected to find the change in average kinetic energy per molecule with an increase in the number of molecules. So they were presented with a situation where if we have a gas in a container, which is at temperature T and it contains n number of molecules, if we increase the number of molecules in the container, but the temperature is constant. So what would happen to the average kinetic energy per molecule of the gas? The following table summarizes the teachers' responses before and after the workshop. As shown, the views of teachers before the workshop were quite divided, with 11 teachers responding that their students would opt for decrease in average kinetic energy per molecule. So one teacher said that if we are increasing the number of molecules, the average kinetic energy would decrease because the energy which was first being distributed within, say, 10 molecules is now being distributed among 20 molecules. So this was what she said. Another teacher commented, and I quote, "Students would say that the collisions will increase, so average kinetic energy per molecule will decrease." So here, it is important to note that most of these teachers presumed that this response of the students was actually scientifically correct. The teacher said, and I quote, "Yes, this response is correct. Students apply logic before they apply physics, and this is a logical response." So this illustrated that students' alternative conceptions were same as of their teachers. And it showed how the lack of conceptual understanding of teachers about the microscopic behavior of particles is often transferred to students. In this case, what was expected was that teachers would be able to figure out that since the temperature remains constant, the average kinetic energy per molecule would also not change, because average kinetic energy per molecule depends only on temperature. However, most of the teachers were unable to identify this. Interestingly, there was a case where a teacher commented, and I quote here, "Students may say that the average kinetic energy per molecule will remain same as the temperature is same. But if the molecules are increasing, then the average kinetic energy per molecule should decrease as the motion is restricted." So she, in fact, here, very interestingly, is asserting that the predominant response among her students is scientifically incorrect, which was actually scientifically correct. So she was not able to figure out the correct answer. Moreover, there were a significant number of teachers, as shown here in this table, who commented that they could not predict the students' response as they don't do such conceptual problems in the class. And a teacher said, I quote, "See, in this, we don't ask conceptual questions. I would like to leave the question." So this again indicates that the emphasis is on numerical and derivations in the physics classroom, and often the conceptual component of physics is left out. Moreover, when asked to explicate the pedagogical strategy that they would use to address students' alternative conceptions, the teachers, almost all the teachers, the participants responded that they would correct students' alternative conceptions by giving them the right answer, by telling them the right answer. So one participant said, and I quote, "I would explain the correct answer to the students." So these responses reveal the inability of the teachers to suggest an alternate pedagogical strategy that would help students in visualization and so that students themselves are able to arrive at the right answer instead of giving them the answer. So therefore, during the workshop sessions, the teachers explored the relationship between the kinetic energy, number of molecules, volume, etc., using the model that the net logo model, and they themselves explored that how kinetic energy, average kinetic energy per molecule, was dependent only on temperature and not on the other variables. In fact, a teacher responded, and I quote, "This is interesting. We can explain concepts very easily to our students using this model. So a significant difference was seen in teachers' perspectives and their responses after the workshop. Moving on to the next component, which was the interdependence of heat, average kinetic energy, and the number of gas molecules. Here, the teachers were asked to infer the relationship. So as shown in this block that I have shown, the box, that teachers were presented with this question where there are two containers, and both the containers are of the same volume and same initial temperature, but different number of gas molecules, and heat is supplied to them. So the teachers were presented with this situation, and they were asked that if your student states that average kinetic energy per molecule will be same in both, as the volume is directly proportional to temperature, what would be your response? So the teachers' responses are shown here. As one can see that the 17 teachers were able to identify the error in students' reasoning and point out towards the wrong application of the ideal gas law. While 9 teachers were found, they found that students' reasoning was correct. So a teacher said, and I quote, "In ideal gas, we have to consider other parameters. The other parameters have to be constant. Here, the number of molecules are not constant, so we can't apply ideal gas law." So some of the teachers could identify the problem or the error with the students' reasoning that was given to them. However, it was observed that even in cases where they were able to find the error in students' reasoning, they themselves failed to provide the correct reasoning. So therefore, they were able to identify, but they were not able to arrive at the right answer because they themselves struggled with the concept and often related the kinetic energy per molecule with the number of collisions. So a teacher said, and I quote, "Container A has more particles. The number of collisions will be more. So temperature and average kinetic energy per molecule will also be more." So teachers' own lack of conceptual understanding was evident in their response. So here again in the workshop, using the net logo models, which allow teachers to have some hands-on experience where they could change the variables and see that how average kinetic energy was varying with the heat that was provided. They observe the relationship between the heat transferred to the gas and other variables. And as one can see here, that all the teachers could easily identify students' error as well as arrive at the correct reasoning in the post-workshop interview. This is here shown in the table. Moving to the next component, this was yes, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Sorry to interrupt. Actually, we are running late, so
Yes, sir.
please,
So just 2 minutes.
yeah,
I can write in 2 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you.
The third and the final component was the effect of expansion of gas on the average kinetic energy of gas molecules, which presented a very interesting context to initiate the discussion on the nature of gases, the mass of gas molecules, and their average kinetic energy. Here, a situation was presented where their teachers were given this particular setup where they were asked that there is a room which has some molecules, and the room is separated by another room through a wall. So by a wall it is separated. What will happen if the wall is lifted? So if we remove the wall, then what would happen to the average kinetic energy of the gas? And teachers were asked that how would they respond to students if their students say that the average kinetic energy of particles would increase? And what would be the ways that they would use to demonstrate the phenomena to them? So the teachers' responses revealed that some of the teachers, that is around 14 teachers, were able to infer students' response was incorrect. But like in the previous component that we took, they failed to provide the appropriate reasoning. And the teacher said, I quote, "The student is wrong. The number of collisions will decrease when the valve is opened. so the average kinetic energy per molecule will decrease. So here the teacher is providing a wrong perspective where she's associating collisions with average kinetic energy, which is not true. And another teacher responded, and I quote, average kinetic energy will increase because जहाँ पे vacuum है, molecules वहीं पे rush करेंगे. That is, molecules will move towards the vacuum. So again, the teachers were unable to identify that the average kinetic energy of the particles in this case would remain constant. It will not change. When asked about the pedagogical strategy to address students' difficulty, a teacher said that I will tell the correct answer to students. It is not possible to show anything or to do an experiment. So again, the teachers found the lack of resources to visualize, to help children visualize this concept. Again, one could see that the net logo model, the agent modeling, allowed teachers to try out these ideas, and they were given with a setup. And this was a model that I designed, where I showed them that how in a room, if there are molecules, and when we remove the barrier, the average kinetic energy remained constant. So they could visualize this using the agent modeling environment. So we conclude here that the knowledge of students' ideas is imperative for designing a student-centered learning environment which focuses on addressing students' presuppositions and alternative conceptions. And the study revealed that the inadequate attention that is given by teachers to understanding of students' topic-specific difficulties often resulted in their failure to address the alternative conceptions. And moreover, it was found that this lack of knowledge of students' ideas was closely related to their own gaps in conceptual understanding of the topic. So during the course of study, the teachers developed an in-depth understanding of the subject matter knowledge, as well as they tried out innovative pedagogical strategy to engage students in scientific inquiry. So agent-based modeling can mediate teaching learning by providing teachers with computational objects in the context of a micro world, as has been argued in this paper. And thus this study displayed the effectiveness of explorations using NetLogo in developing topic-specific pedagogical content knowledge of physics teachers. So I'll end here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Stop sharing.
So thanks a lot, Shruti. It was really a well descriptive and data-based analysis and presentation. And I think you have presented taking the example of physics teachers, but I feel that almost more or less it's almost true with all different streams we have. And if we have any question, we can take some questions right now, and then after that we can move on. Is there any question? However, I want to add here, Shruti, that when you are talking about agent-based modeling, so in psychology, I have always noticed that there are so many agents. What we talk about, like memory, is a very most important agent, especially in the process of learning. So I think this is that's why I told you in all the streams we can apply this particular method. So thank you for your presentation. So I think we don't have any other questions. So we can move on to our next presenter. I think Shraddha Rajput is back here, and
Yes,
I welcome you. Yeah, I welcome you. And the topic of your presentation is teaching fundamental duties as a part of curriculum, a need of the hour. So that's really good to hear that you are talking about fundamental duties, because generally we are always rushing towards our fundamental rights. Nobody talks about fundamental duties. So it would be nice to listen to you. You can continue now. Thank you.
okay, thank you, sir. Greetings to Honorable Chair, our resource person, Rishikesh Kumar, sir. Sir, am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible. Yes, you are audible.
Thank you. Thank you, Lord, sir.
And please try to conclude it within 8 to 10 minutes because we are running late today.
Sure, sir.
So,
Sure. I would.
thank you. Yeah, thank you. Hello, are you there, Shraddha? Hello. Hello.
Do that.
Sir,
Okay.
am
Am
I
I
audible to you?
No, am I audible? Okay,
I
sir.
think there is some issue with the mic. You please check it. Check it again. Yeah.
Okay, I'm extremely sorry for the
Yeah, please
technical
go ahead.
glitches. I greetings to Honorable Chair, our resource person Rishikesh Kumar sir, and all the dignitaries and dear participant. Okay, I won't take much more time because I have already lost the time which I was given due to the technical glitch. I'm extremely sorry for that. I would directly turn to the title of my presentation, which is Teaching Fundamental Duties in Constitution of India as a part of curriculum, a need of the hour. Okay, that's a topic which I'm going to talk about. Before I proceed to a topic, I would just tell you one thing that has been brought in by Rudolf Steiner, who says the need for imagination, a sense of truth, and a feeling of a duty. These three forces are the very nerve of education. Before I proceed with these particular points, I would just highlight two things. Okay, in the beginning, as our resource person have stated that there's a difference between the education and learning. I accept this particular concept that yes, there is a difference between both the terms, and we need to understand that particular difference in order to understand
Hello. You are not audible again.
difference and the main we are facing with
I
so am
think
I
you are facing a lot of technical glitches. I think you have logged in two different devices. I think so. That might be a problem. Yeah, you must log in through just one device.
so
You are
there
not audible. Yeah, please go.
actually so there
Yes,
I
yes,
don't
go ahead.
know how there's a problem with regard to mic. It never happens with me. I always take classes online, but I don't know what's wrong today, sir. And I
Okay, now
really want
you
to
can continue.
present my topic, sir.
Okay, so you can do one thing. You can just in brief you can present what exactly you want to share with us. So that would be, I think, better because you are getting through such technical glitches. So I
Okay,
think
okay.
you
In
just make
short,
it.
I would just say that my paper is
I think
Ma'am,
again.
I think it's better if you switch off your video and just log in from
Yeah,
one. So that we can just hear you. It's better
exactly. That
because
would
of the
be better.
signal issues. This is happening.
Is it fine, ma'am?
Yes.
Yeah, it's
Yes, ma'am.
I'm
That's
no,
extremely
fine.
no.
sorry.
No,
Yeah,
no,
it's
it's okay.
fine. You can go ahead. No issue.
Okay, I just want to highlight one thing as I will be very short in presenting. As our resource person have stated, there's a difference between learning and educating. Okay, my paper has completely talked about one thing, which is related with the concern that education and children's or both of them are considered as a backbone of the country. If a country is to thrive, we can say that children must be educated. Okay, for the upliftment of the nation, where you can say that we can stand with a pride. Okay, so as the phase of the country is changing and the world is transferring into the era of liberalization, privatization, and globalization, the education system has also adopted this particular changes. Okay, so what we need to understand here is that education which we are providing to our children have really changed in that concern or not, and is this change a positive change or a negative change which we have welcomed? My whole paper will concentrate on these things which are related in this context, but as the time is less, so I would just highlight you one thing with regard to this point. Everybody is knowing that we had a strong education system called as Gurukul, and we used to follow it in a major way whenever we talked about the educational system. Even today, the base of educational system can be seen on these particular principles of Gurukul. Okay, so when we talk about it, what really makes our educational system different from the other countries? Okay, there are certain values, there are certain ethics, there are certain morals which has become a part of our educational system. Okay, rightly there was a point which was again highlighted by Abhimanyu sir, that it's not the responsibility of only teachers, it's not only the part of which we play by adding a particular fundamental duty as a part of curriculum. We should forget that what exactly is to be parted as education at that hour. Okay, so the first thing we should remember is that as a parent we should try to concentrate that whether a particular kid is really educated in such a manner that tomorrow he is going to be a responsible citizen by following these ethics, these things which are nothing but the part of the suprema lex, that is law of land, our constitution. So that is my concern over here. Okay, most of us, we all have been through this stage of primary and secondary education. You would always remember there was a book called as Value Education. Okay, and most of the time that book was always a book which used to be new throughout the year. Why? Because we used it in very less manner. Okay, so my attention is with regard to this point. Let me tell you frankly, I had to share so many things on this platform, but I don't know, today my mic has not supported me. But let me tell you one thing, that when I talk about value education, I feel that our education is somewhere lacking with this component of values, and somewhere whatever we are producing with regard to the generations that are going to face liberalization, privatization and globalization are somewhere lacking with this ethics. You people might have experienced these things even in this pandemic situation also, where Supreme Court have made us realize that okay, there are fundamental duties and we as a part of citizen are not following it. But is that a proper time where you can say that at being adolescent or at a particular age you can just now inculcate these principles as a part of somebody's living? I say no, we cannot do that. Okay, the proper age something that can be inculcated from the childhood itself. Okay, I selected this topic on the I can say my guide stated me that you have to work on this topic. Until that time, let me be very frank, I was not serious about fundamental duties. Let me be very frank to you. Being a part of a legal fraternity, I used to always, as sir have stated, I was too conscious about my rights rather than my duties. Okay, but in these 7 years, I have experienced how important fundamental duties are to every citizen who is a part of this country. Okay, I need to speak this thing here because at least 60 people who are a part of this particular conference can realize that there is something called as fundamental duties, and we need to inculcate this thing as a part of education system also, where we are lacking. Okay, something that can be brought in the form of the syllabus, in the form of the curriculum. Okay, again, not going to the political agenda. If you'll observe National Education Policy 2020, which has highlighted the term fundamental duties 3 times in its education policy. Okay, what I mean to say here, just highlighting is not important, but how you inculcate these particular duties is very important. Okay, teachers as a being, or you can say as a part of this particular process, we feel that there should be a particular way by which we should inculcate this thing, not only on the platform of the schools, universities or educational institutions. Even this thing should start from the home itself. Okay, let me be very frank, after knowing our fundamental duties, I always try, my son is of 3.5 years, I always try to inculcate these 11 duties. Okay, in his particular behavior or whatever he carries, I always point him out. Okay, you have to respect the environment, you have to respect our nation, you have to be respectful to the major things which are part of our country, which is the heritage of our country. You should have a scientific temper that should be developed, because I feel if you see, very simple things are there. Okay, they may be practiced as a way of side, I'm sure that every person listening to me can do it with the others. Okay, so this is what I really want to talk about, and there are certain measures which I have suggested in my papers. First thing, we will be aware of these duties. Second thing, we can inculcate them in an interesting way as a part of a curriculum. We can have certain seminars and workshops which are related to this thing. In schools, we can just provide the education which is related, or again which is connected with this particular part, and in this way I feel that we can bring a major change in following fundamental duties. Okay, so I think I should end up here, not taking your point, and I would just stop here. I know that everybody is on the urge of this only thing, so
Yeah.
I will wind up with this thing, sir. Okay, thank you very much for
Okay.
giving me a chance to speak, sir. And I'm so happy that I could at least present few things over here, sir. Thanks a lot.
Exactly. Thank you, Shraddha ji, for your, like, in brief, you have explained the best you could. And before we go ahead, I would like to have some questions. If somebody has, please come ahead.
Sure.
Somebody else, yeah. Okay. By the way, I just want to ask you something. Hello. Acha, Shruti wants to ask something. Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Oh, yeah,
So
please.
I would like to ask some of the strategies that one could use to develop scientific temper among children. So what could be some of the strategies that one can use in daily life?
Okay. Shruti, may I answer? Okay. Am I audible, Shruti, to you?
Yes, ma'am, you are.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. I just would say that when you talk about scientific temper, okay, I don't know how much of you, how many of you would agree with this thing. Okay, I have observed one thing. Okay, we always stop our children from questioning. Am I right? At a time, as a parent, we will answer once, twice, thrice. Okay, but after that, you start getting irritated. That's a human behavior. Okay, what I have also observed being a parent. Okay, I feel we should not do that thing. My simple way is try to make your child understand, make your student understand that behind everything there is a logic. Okay, a logic that gives a life to something. Okay, and I feel if you start developing that thing, okay, if you try to connect these things with all the things which we are doing in our everyday life, I feel that that kind of inquisitiveness will be developed in the students, and tomorrow they will be in position to know what is right and what is wrong. And if I go by books, okay, if I need to literally answer your question, Shruti, then people say that they have so many things like blind faith is there, which is again a part of the society. There are so many things which are going overall in the society. We need to make our child aware about this thing. What is the problem with fundamental duties? Only one thing we can work on is awareness. The best way you give the knowledge of that particular thing to our kids, I feel that we can really help out majority of the people throughout the world. I'm just not talking about the country. I personally feel this thing. If you question me and whatever I have worked throughout this many years, I feel we can develop this thing by answering our own kids or our own students. This is the way we can develop a temper which will really make them think on this scientific line. That's how I answer our question. I don't know whether I could satisfy you or not.
Okay. I think Shruti got your answer, and also I want to add here, as you said, Shraddha, that making people aware is the most important thing regarding the fundamental duties. So I would like to add here that awareness is really good, but I think making conscious is the most important thing nowadays, because I feel that most of the things we are aware of, but we don't follow them. We don't follow them in our life, in practical. So this is the lack of being conscious. So people conscious rather than just awareness, because I have gone through various, like awareness campaigns launched by the government, by the many, different institutions. But awareness is like just, giving information, the factual information, delivering the information. But consciousness is the application of those things, implementation of those things in real life. So I think that would be needed now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay, sir.
Okay. So I think we should move on. Thank you, Shraddhaji, again. And I think we don't have any other question. So thanks again. And we are moving towards our next presentation. And I invite Nimta Devi. She's there.
Yes, sir, I am present. Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah. I welcome you, Nimta Devi. And she is a research scholar in the Department of PG Department of Education, University of Jammu. The topic of health among adolescents. I think this is really a nice, topic we have selected because the adolescent education and education of educating adolescents
Is my PPT
that is
visible to
really,
all of you?
implementation. Okay, you may continue, Nimta.
Very good afternoon to one and all present here. Very thankful to everyone to give me opportunity to present my paper, and special thanks to Rishikesh sir for chairing this session. In this study, I have compared the mental health of the students of class 10th. As we know, adolescence is a stage of stress and storm and hero worship. Many of the adolescents commit suicide because they are unable to fulfill the academic requirement and unable to produce good result. Many of them suffered from many behavioral problems due to peer pressures and unable to meet the parents' expectation. Before imparting knowledge, it becomes necessary for the teacher to be aware of mental health of the students. While conducting various activities in the class and outside the class, a teacher must judge whether the child able to concentrate or not, whether the child is depressed or he is in a mood of learning something or not. Let us begin with the introduction part. The concept of mental health is as old as human beings. In a recent time, clinical psychologists as well as educationists have started giving proper attention to the study of mental health. The term mental well-being and adjustment are also used interchangeably. It is a well-known fact that a person who has made a satisfactory adjustment to their surroundings has good mental health. As a result, it is reasonable to say that the average well-adjusted, well-integrated, emotionally and mature individual, good mental health, and meant to be psychologically stable in order to be well adjusted in one's community. A good person mental health is self-evident. Mental illness is extremely dangerous and is linked to a variety of psychiatric illness as well as maladjustment. The aim of mental hygiene are determined by the essence of good mental health. Much of the above concept of mental health focus on the personality, harmonious function, which falls under the umbrella of mental hygiene. These are the reviews that I have done during my study. Sir, should I read the review also?
If you feel so, if one or two reviews are okay, fine, you can go ahead with. You need to conclude it within 8 to 10 minutes. I think it's better.
Okay, sir. Let me skip
Yeah.
this. I come to the objectives of the study. The first objective of my study to compare the mental health of rural boys and girls. Second objective of my study is to compare the mental health of urban boys and girls. And third objective is to compare the mental health of rural and urban boys and girls. Firstly, I have taken the mental health of only rural boys and girls. Secondly, in mental health of in the third objective, joint score of mental health of urban boys and girls jointly and urban boys and girls. combinedly. Next, I framed the hypothesis. The first hypothesis is there is no significant difference in the mental health of rural boys and girls. Second is no significant difference in mental health of urban boys and girls. And third is there is no significant difference in the mental health of rural and urban boys and girls. Method. In the present study, the researcher used a survey method. The population of the present study consists all the government and private high school students studying in class 10th of Jammu and Kashmir Union Territory Board of School Education. The sample, this study was based on the sample of total 200 students. I have taken 100 boys and 100 girls from the government and private high schools. Sampling techniques. In this study, I have used the simple random sampling technique. Tool use. This is the main component of this study because this study is wholly solely based on the mental health battery developed by Arun Kumar Singh and Alpana Sen Gupta. This tool consists of total 130 items in the yes no form, in consideration the emotional stability of the students, overall adjustment, autonomy, security, and intelligence. Study technique use. After collecting data by using the mental health battery, I have applied the critical ratio as a tool to compare the mental health of boys and girls belongs to the urban as well as the rural locality. Generally use T ratio to find a difference, to find out the difference and prove the null
You are not audible very well. I think you just check your.
so I have used the critical ratio.
Hello. Yeah,
Sir,
Nimra,
am I audible now?
Yes,
Hello.
yes. Now it's better. Yeah,
Audi-
please go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Sir, shall I repeat the previous slide also?
Okay. Yeah, conclude it in
Statistical
brief. Yeah,
technique.
exactly.
Okay. Table 1 showing critical ratio for difference in mental health of rural boys and girls. Firstly, rural boys may come out that is 103.82 and girls is 101.54 and critical ratio is 9, and this is the rural locality. The table 1 and fig 1 reveals that critical ratio value for difference in the mental health of rural boys and girls came out to be 2, whereas table value is 1.9 at 0.05 level of significance and 2.58 at 0.01 level of significance. Hence, mean value was found to be significant. Therefore, on the basis of the value obtained, the investigator interpret that there is significant difference in the mental health of rural boys and girls. As we see the mean value of rural boys and rural boys mean value come out to be 103.82 and that of girls is 101.54. So we can say that the mental health of rural boys is much more better than the mental health of rural girls. Next, table 2 showing critical ratio for difference in the mental health of urban boys and girls. Table 1.6, where stable value is 1.96 at 0.05 level of significance and 2.58 at 0.0 level of significance. Hence, the obtained value was found to be non-significant. Therefore, on the basis of obtained value, the investigator could interpret that there is no significant difference in the mental health of urban boys and urban girls. Next table, here I have taken the score combining the score of rural boys and girls and urban boys and girls. Here the critical ratio value come out to be 2.38 0.71, and this is the graphical representation. The table 3 and fig 2 reveals that the critical issue value for difference in the mental health of rural and urban boys and girls, when we combinedly take the scores, come to 0.71, whereas table value is 1.96 at 0.01 level. Hence, the obtained was found to be significant. On the basis of the value obtained, the investigator could interpret that there is significant difference in the mental health of rural and urban boys and girls. Findings of the study. Significant difference was found in the mental health of rural boys and girls. The calculated mean value of boys is higher than the mean value of girls. Can be clearly interpreted that boys belongs to the rural locality and girls below the locality. No significant difference found of boys and girls belongs to significance was boys and girls belongs to the urban locality found better in the mental health of boys and girls belongs to rural implications of the study. The present study has significance because it was designed to compare the mental health of current student educators, teachers in particular, because the health comparison and educators and teachers to prepare their instructional programs for both rural and urban areas by taking these variables into account. The current research will give parents insight into how to deal effectively with their children so that they can gain an awareness of mental health. This understanding would also assess good school and guiding education and instructions to the furthermore, based on the results of the report, be able to assist students in changing their actions in relations to mental health issue in both areas. The findings of this study can also be useful to educational managers, curriculum designers, counselors, and guidance staff. The knowledge gleaned from this project may be extremely programs. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Nirmala. It was really a nice presentation, though it requires much more analysis of data. I just wanted to ask you, like the second conclusion, which you just remarked regarding the mental health of adolescents in urban areas. Yes, you said that based on your research, based on your data collection, you found that there's no significant difference at this level. Did you say that? I think so.
Yes.
So
yes, sir. Sir, I have applied the
in urban areas. Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So I just wanted
Hello.
Yeah, I'm getting you. I'm okay. Wait. I just wanted to ask you that in urban areas, what was the criteria of your findings? Because as you said, there is no significant difference in urban areas, boys and girls, mental status or mental health. So could you tell me what were the like criteria of your finding the data?
Okay, sir. Okay.
In urban areas, especially.
Yeah. Sir. Okay. Sir, in both the urban as well as rural area, I have applied the mental health battery developed by Arun Kumar Singh and Alpana Sengupta that consists of 130 questions total. And I calculated data very carefully and collected personally data and interact with the students also. This is based on the calculation of my study that I have come to the result that there is no significant difference found in the mental health of urban boys and girls, while the difference is found in the mental health of rural boys and girls. I have in both area I have applied the same tool, but the results are different, and it due to the education level, that is literacy level is quite higher in the urban area as well as compared to the rural area. That's why the parents feel that there is no difference in boys and the
You are not
child
audible.
and girls get
Hello?
the proper better. Hello,
Yeah, you were not audible in between. Yeah, please tell me.
am I
Go
audible
ahead.
now, sir?
Yes, yes, please. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. As I said that I have collected data and analyzed it very carefully with the
So you have
help of
taken it
critical ratio,
through
and
questionnaire.
I have questionnaire, standardized questionnaire, sir.
Okay,
Mental
is
health
there
battery
other
developed
tool you
by
have
Arun
used?
Kumar Singh and
Yeah, yeah. Okay,
yeah.
I got that. Did you use any other tool, like any other way of analyzing the data, like except this questionnaire?
No, sir. No, sir. This questionnaire itself contained 130
That's okay.
questions.
That's fine.
So I
But
have
there are like,
applied only this question.
I understand. Okay. Actually, like the different ways, like case studies,
Okay.
even one-to-one interviews. Like there are so many other differences where people are like they because usually in questionnaire people want to hide their real emotions and the answers. We have gone through that. So questionnaire is just one. It has limitations. A lot of limitations. But when you directly come into contact with people through like their life story method, life story, that's really a very good way to find out the real, mental status or mental health condition. Even the, like talking people, the nearby people, like even like whom they are dependent on, like their parents, like their friends, their peer, group. So I think in urban areas, as you have concluded, there I have some like issues. So just I think you need to have much more indulgence into this research, because I think this is really not completely acceptable in psychology, especially regarding urban, because gender-based analysis.
Okay.
Because as you have done
Yeah.
gender-based analysis of mental health,
Yeah.
so there is a quite variation,
Yeah.
especially in urban areas.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think you need
Urban
to
areas.
again work on it much more. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Okay.
So okay, by the way, it's
Thank
really
you.
good to go through your analysis. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Nimta. So is there any other query or question here? You can go ahead with that.
Sir, can I
Yeah,
ask a
hello.
question?
Okay, yeah, Shruti, please go ahead.
So from what I understood, and I might be wrong, ma'am, but you mentioned that the sample of the urban children was taken from a private schools, children studying in a private school, and for the rural children,
Now,
you took it from a government school. So is there an assumption
No.
that children studying in a government school come from the rural background? And so, what was the kind of geographical aspects that were considered? And because the entire population that you took who was studying in a government school may not really belong to a rural section. So I just wanted some clarity on this.
Thank you, Shruti ma'am. You have misunderstood my sample the data from the rural area government as well as private school, and urban areas as well. Government. I have collected data from the government as well as private areas. I have collected data from both the government and private schools.
I think Shruti, you got your answer.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Fine. So if we don't have any other query regarding this presentation, we can move on. I think we should move on. And we have the last presenter here. I invite P.A. Padmavati. She is a research scholar, PhD scholar from the Department of English, Shri Ram Nallamani Yadava College for Arts and Science, Tenkashi. And the topic of her presentation is the sacred secrets of indigenous people in traditional India. So I invite P.A. Padmavati to present your paper.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, sir. This is Mrs. Padmavati from Tenkasi, sir. Yes, I shall start. I shall start my article. It's my pleasure to join the session with the hot topic: the sacred secrets of indigenous people in traditional India in this pandemic period. So, India is largely a country of old immigrants, which explains its tremendous diversity. It follows that tolerance and equal respect for all communities and sectors are an absolute imperative if we wish to keep India united. If it was believed at one time that Dravidians were the original inhabitants of India, that view has been since considerably modified. Indians are known as the indigenous peoples or aborigines or scheduled tribes, which now comprise only about 8% of the population of India. The rest 92% consists of dozens of immigrants. Thus, India is broadly a country of immigrants like North America. India was a veritable paradise for pastoral and agricultural society with indigenous peoples because it has level and fertile land with hundreds of rivers, forests, etc., and was rich in natural resources. Hence, for thousands of years, people kept pouring into India because they found a comfortable life here in our country, which was gifted by our mother nature. Special provisions have been given to the indigenous communities. Among these disadvantaged groups, the most disadvantaged and marginalized in India are the Adivasis, who are living in the hill areas. Once upon the time, they were being affected by the diseases, early mortality, and the rate of illiteracy were high among them. But in our traditional India, that is now the present India, they are completely safe and not even affected by the, not much affected like us in this pandemic situation. The well-known example of injustice which have been done to the indigenous people, I want to give an example, that is Egaleva in Mahabharata, where the indigenous people were suffered. But now we are not going inside the forest, and they are now, it is that they are safe completely from the pandemic situation. I want to prove that I had been researched, and I want to prove it through my research that really anywhere else these symptoms would be enough to raise fears of COVID-19. 58-year-old Kalo, who lives in Surupa village in the state of Orissa, was not worried. I am telling about the current situation. His wife treated him with remedies made from the plants in nearby forest, a drink with the leaves of mighty flowering Ganga Suli jasmine to get rid of his fever and pains, and a solution of extract of Pratagaja or air plant for his cough. The leaves and roots and other resources collected from our forest cured him in less than a week. Okay, as India continues to battle the COVID-19 pandemic, healthy experts and environmentalists says that the climate resilient, nature-based lifestyle of many indigenous communities. I am saying once again, the climate resilient, nature-based lifestyle of many indigenous communities are helping to protect them from the virus and its economic impact. The same practices that kept the villages. That is what I want to say, that when that man was suffering from that, the wife has been cured with that herbs, and now the whole village is following that treatment and provide them with food, also prevent them from catching and spreading the same COVID-19. Preserving forest, protecting wildlife, and managing natural resources wisely help keep people, indigenous people, healthy and happy from that COVID-19. The tribes in the region have been conserving the native biosity for generations through their community lead practices. Now, everyone may think that why she is telling this and all in this session. Just I want to tell that why we are not educating our kids, that is our students who are all living in the urban area, about this natural ingredient which are being provided to the kids from in the rural area. This is paying off during the tough times of global pandemic in terms of food, medical and livelihood security. Dr. Debananda Sago, Assistant Professor of General Medicine at All India Institute of Medical Science in Bhubaneswar, said that the natural diets of many indigenous villages strengthen their immune system, keeping the virus at bay. Wild organic fruits and vegetables have high level of vitamin C and E. Wild varieties of tubers, wild fruits, leaves, roots, and mushroom gathered from the forest and regularly consumed by the indigenous community are rich in nutrients and antioxidants. Most importantly, they are free from chemical fertilizers, pesticides, thus they are pure and effective. When lockdowns, quarantines, and travel bans during the peak of the pandemic made life difficult for the peoples in cities, it stayed comparatively easier for those indigenous communities. Villages use the flowers of magua to make a solution with antiseptic qualities and take 2 spoons each day in a bite to keep the novel coronavirus away, said an indigenous man. They also spray the solution along the entry and exit points of the village outside their homes. So, the value and efficacy of such traditional healing system and plants have long been recognized, but we need to have more robust research and trials, especially of the ingredients used and the specific dosage and concentration to establish them scientifically. A spoon of powdered bark of ashwagandha, also called as Indian ginseng, stirred it in a cup of warm milk, acts as an analgesic, reduces inflammation, and builds immunity among them. And when giloy shrub branches are ground and boiled with the water, the solution helps clear congestion and chest infection. That indigenous man who has been given that information through the TV programs. To conclude with, I recommend all the educational system in India to give an awareness of health education to our younger generation, that neither money nor our education is going to save us. It is the sacred secrets of our indigenous traditional food and herbs is going to save us. Just I want to add something in this. In our area, that is Tenkasi, there is a primary school named ARS Mothers Gurukulam, where my son has been educated, is completely following the traditional food style in a traditional food style which the indigenous people, that is our ancestors, followed. Example, they are doing yoga daily they are doing yoga in their school, and the food habits which is we are taking tea, coffee, milk and all, they are not taking that. They are taking the solution, that is the green leaves juice, and then the snacks would be sprouts, that's and all. So the traditional habits which could change our tradition, that is which could change our pandemic period, is nothing just we should give awareness, and I'm very happy to give some awareness through this conference, and let us all teach our kids, students, the value of traditional herbs, traditional food, habitat, which could help our ancestors, which could help our future generation, and make them healthier and happier. Thank you so much for giving me such opportunity, sir. Thank you so much. I think it could be very useful for everyone. Sir,
Exactly. Yeah.
If any doubt means anybody can ask, sir, and I would be very happy
exactly.
to answer.
Even I was so happy to hear your presentation, because it's in brief you have presented the really significant issues which we need to look forward, and
Yes.
I think you need to add here, instead of traditional India, you need to say modern India, because we have, in all aspects, we have modernized. And hello, yeah,
Yes, sir,
in all aspects we have modernized. We have modernized ourselves, but we are really missing the true essence of our Indianness, which you have presented, that the indigenous people, they are still following their own, like tradition. So I think it's better to say that the learning of the sacred secrets of indigenous people in modern India. What do you think so?
Yes, sir. What I want to tell that these are the secrets. That is, we are having lot of secrets in our
Exactly.
India. That is the traditional food, the proteins or the fats or the carbohydrates which our ancestor followed was not they didn't that time there was no research, there was no scientist, but they followed the correct formation and the correct balanced food at that time. But in modern India, really we are not following that. If we educate our kids in the correct manner, then definitely we will have a healthy and happier kids in our life. So because my son is daily following that, when it is 11 o'clock, he will be asking that, please give me the green leaf juice or give me some sprouts. He never used to eat Lays or chips, potato chips like that and all. He always used to have some sprouts or some other things. So I want every the persons or the scholars who are here to aware and aware the kids with this traditional foods and herbs. So that's it. I think it could be
That's
useful.
really beautiful, because that is really needed. Yeah, you are right, because nowadays kids are really going far from all these really good things which is good for our health. So
Yes,
that's
ma'am.
good to discuss about such things and making people conscious about all these traditional heritage we have, in fact. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So thank you, Padmavati ji. I open this platform for the question. If you have any question to ask.
If anybody is
Yeah, I
having
think
doubt,
Shubhra ji, you want to say something?
It's just a
You want to say
compliment.
something?
She really presented it very well. Wonderful,
Thank you, Didi.
and a very thought-provoking and a new idea which you put in the
Exactly,
Yes,
exactly.
yes.
Yeah, that is. I really like, because she didn't elaborated so many unnecessary things. In brief, she just explained what is needed to be discussed and thought nowadays. So I really appreciate
Because
your presentation.
when
Thank
my
you.
son attend his online class, no, his teacher is used to ask, his teachers are used to ask that whether how many liters of water did you have, Dev Darshan, what did you eat today, like that and all. The teachers are asked to use him. So I want to answer the question. So please give me. He asked me like that. If my teacher asks, I want to say yes. So please give me that. Like that he is asking. So if we teach the students correctly, definitely they will be healthier and happier. That's what I want to convey in this session.
Congratulations.
Yeah. So
Great.
you aptly.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Congratulations. You have aptly titled, the secrets. Yeah, that's really, secrets. These are the secrets which we are unaware of. So thank you, Padmavati ji. I think now we are at the end of the session now, and I think we don't have any other question. So I thank you all the presenters. We just missed one educational games by Dr. Vishal. Although we have discussed a lot of different kinds of topics, especially I can say truly it's a heterogeneous kind of session we had. So from like fundamental duties through agent-based modeling of teaching, and then adolescence issues, and then the indigenous heritage we have. We discussed all the different things in this session. So with all such notes, I want to conclude this session. Thank you everyone, and thank you Dr. Shubhra. And I think we on the such platform we will again meet soon.
Thank you, sir, for joining us. It was real pleasure that you
Thank you.
were with us. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Rishikesh Kumar Singh, sir.